Hello listener, I'm Dungeon Master JGR and thank you for tuning in to our new podcast, The Wreckage RPG, where we will be exploring the lands of an original world, fighting epic battles and delving deep into dungeons, all the while having a good old laugh. If you enjoy the show, why not let others know by leaving a review on whatever podcast service it is you use. We would really appreciate the shout out. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
And I have a live mic.
We're all live.
Yeah, sounds rolling.
Yep, can confirm.
Okay, cool. Right. So let's do this. Right. How should I start?
With a song and dance number.
That's what I was going for. What?
Introduce it.
Yeah.
Right, hello and welcome listeners to a brand new RPG podcast. We are doing the Wreckage RPG podcast, which is looking at using the age system provided by Green Ronin Publishing. I'm going to be the DM for this. I am the original JGR, or John, but you can find me on Instagram under that tag. I am here with 4 other players. We're going to just have an awesome time playing this game. We'll talk a little bit about the system and hopefully have a whole bunch of fun doing this. So I'll go over to you folks. Who would like to introduce themselves first? Wonderful silence from everybody. That's always a great way to start. So,
you mean we didn't discuss an order?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't at all. No order whatsoever. So, Lee, as you're on the left of my screen, you can go for it first.
Oh, nuts. Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Lee. I like playing RPGs and many other tabletop games. That's all you're getting.
That's it. That's Lee.
Well,
Is that it? He's very ominous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, my name is Lee. I like RPGs. Great intro, Lee.
Almost rhymes.
Fantastic. So, I guess I'll go next. So, my name's Adam. My tag is AdaptUK0. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook.
Oh, we promote Instagram. 2 screens on Instagram.
It's probably worth also saying that Lee and I co-host a separate podcast on board dedicated to board games, card games, and pretty much everything average in gaming. So we are the Average Gamers. You can find if you Google or search for Average Gamers podcast, you should find us there.
Retro logo, pink writing. Don't look at all the other ones with the rubbish logos that are fake.
Shameless pun.
Fake news.
I'm Jay. Probably the least sophisticated of the group. I'm probably on Instagram as well, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't like stalkers. Play a lot of RPGs, tabletop games, and looking forward to this. On to you, Rob.
I'm Rob. I don't have any Instagram or anything. I know Jay and John from a D&D game we've been playing for the last couple of years. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, so here we are expanding out into the world of podcasts. Is this a wise decision? Who knows? I guess we'll find out as we go forward. So I'm really looking forward to this. I've been playing D&D for years and jumped across to this system by playing The Expanse. So those of you who have watched The Expanse on Amazon Prime, Green Ronin did an RPG on The Expanse. The system's just quite fast, a little bit different from D&D. I'd say maybe a little bit simpler in places. Magic's a bit more streamlined. Everything works off a wonderful 3d6 roll. So everything is nice and simple. 3d6, 3 dice with 6 sides for anybody who doesn't know what 3d6 means. We're gonna crack on with that, and we'll sort of explain rules as we go and bits and bobs and sort of learn the game as we progress as well for you folks. But hopefully it'll be good. It tends to be a little bit more story based than anything else, and lots of moral decisions. So we'll see how the group cope with some of them as they get thrown their way. Does anybody want to sort of say anything else before we start, or are we all good to go?
Yeah, I'm
we're good to
ready
go.
to fire.
I'm good.
go.
Let us begin.
Right, okay, so just before we start, I guess I've got to give thanks to Syrinscape. I'm using their sort of app to give some sound. If you can't hear it on the podcast, apologies. It's trying to get all this tech to work from the off is a good challenge. But yeah, so good shout out to them for providing a free app to do this kind of stuff is amazing. So, without further ado, let us begin with what is undoubtedly going to be a wreckage of an RPG. See what I did there? See what I did there? Right, okay. So,
Horrendous.
this is where we need like the intro music and decide what we're going to have. You know, whether it be humming or something. If anybody out there
Let's get some good Gregorian chants.
Right. Yeah.
Aren't we all going to do like an a cappella version of some kind of famous fantasy?
Oh.
Can't believe it that she got me red-handed.
Well, shall we?
It wasn't me.
And without further ado, so many tales and legends talk of the world tree at the centre of the universe, a place where the gods of old were brought into existence, where they lived and where they began to influence all they touched. These old gods guided the growth of the world's tree branches, tending to their created garden as it sprawled towards every corner of time and space, stretching out far and wide. As the universe grew, its sagas and tales were wound into the tapestry of time. Every event planned to happen when it was just so, every being bound to its fate and letting destinies unfold. The planes of existence and its gods are quite hard for mortals to comprehend at the best of times. They know little what is beyond their world, but what they do know about their world is it's called Uri, and it's known as the seed of the world tree. Uri is a vibrant world, filled with all sorts of life that often disagrees with each other. But the world knows little of its origins and its past. In the current age, however, there is one far-reaching tale. The Day of Silence. It was a day that followed centuries of storms and disasters, a time when the inhabitants of the world had to hide, taking shelter from the wrath of their world. The Day of Silence was the day that mortal beings emerged from their shelters, and when the world could start anew. Civilization entered the usual ebbs and flows of empires rising and falling, kings and queens being crowned, and great explorers heading out to find out just what is there. Wars have been waged, battles won, battles lost, people making history, a name for themselves, some just forgotten in the annals of time. But one event that has not been forgotten was in the year 651. It was an event that occurred that changed the life on the continents of Thaldur and further south, Uraldir. An almighty crack thundered out across the land, originating from the city of Ero on the eastern coast of Thaldur. The city and the valley which it occupied was engulfed in some strange magic. A magic which baffled, made no sense. Scholars and adventurers had no idea what it was about. It stopped normal people seemingly going in, but others developed a way to travel into this city, breaking their way through this magical barrier, to return with bountiful treasures that they found within. And the way in which this is done is kept secret by those who know how to do it, and they are known as divers, renowned explorers, fighters, who have formed guilds to harvest the spoils of this valley. Since then, the Union, the largest empire, has expanded its borders, convincing many a ruler to bend their knee by either cunning wit and politics or by the blade of a sword. 80 years later, the year is now 731. The Union only now being held back from conquering the entire continents of Thaldur and Uraldir by the Zarzupine dynasty to the north and the inhabitants of Uraldir in the south. Technology has advanced much since that cracking event 80 years ago. Muskets have become rifles. Horse carriages are moved by huge mechanical beasts called trains. And science conflicts often with belief. The world is a strange mixing pot of swords, magic, and steam. To the Union's east lies the Aurum coast, a region that currently holds a tentative peace with it. The coin master in charge of the Aurum coast offers much in the way of lucrative trade. The Aurum coast is an area that is rich and fertile. It has many large plantations of coffee, grape and fruit, wide spanning fields to feed its denizens and those of empires beyond. It has a wealthy trade industry spanning across the many towns and villages along the beautiful golden shoreline. It is a realm with a diverse community of many races from throughout the continents. It has, as a result, many different cultures, communities, and traditions. Even some of the tribal orcs who live to the north of the settled lands of the Aurum coast have made their way south in search of a new life. However, it is a land not without its issues. Its inhabitants live in constant fear of raids from the Iceborne Isles further east, and those near the Lokisun Ranges or the Darkvale live in fear of monsters, terrors of the night, beasts. To the south lies the border with the Union, a single valley spanned by a huge gate, and it is an ever-present threat, despite the truth. Finally, to the north, the Orc tribes, threatening in their barbaric way of life, but kept at bay by the large spring river. With all the foes and dangers present, the region relies heavily on the jobs of mercenaries to carry out and keep its denizens safe. While many of people of this region know how to fight just because they have to, they do have other jobs that they just want to get on with, and if people want to fight, let them do the fighting. It's healthy for the job market, and, well, the people who do it love it. And there's always something to do. Our adventure starts, more specifically, in the northern region of the Aurum coast. It's overseen by the lavish city of Marquis. The cold breezes of the winter are starting to settle in as a regular feature of each day. The trees have lost their leaves. The nights are getting shorter, rain more common, and in the morning the frosts can be found. One thing is for sure, it's certainly wise to spend the night off the roads. And, indeed, there are many coach houses along the coastal road between Marquis and the northern town of Orgrin. Our adventure begins at one such coach house, the Dandy Owl. So, the Dandy Owl. The Dandy Owl is a well-maintained stopover just outside the town of Tosca. It's a beautiful whitewashed building with black painted beams on its exterior. Inside, it's a well-loved establishment, with relatively ornate furniture with red fabric and dark wooden chairs, complemented by dark wooden tables. It has a large dorm above the central bar area, with several single and communal rooms for people to stay the night. It's a large space, loads of little trinkets just hanging from its ceiling. At this moment, the rain is starting to fall outside, and a man in his leather armour, carrying a shield at his side, hood to cover himself from the rain, walks into the bar. Adam, I would like you to introduce your character.
So, hello, my character is Galen Pyreheart, warrior priest of the Ember Order. So Galen's backstory, he's a member of this secretive organisation that have used their power and influence to shape the fate and the the happenings of the world of Ori. There's little to be known of the Ember Order. They're quite this secretive organisation, but what is known is that the way in which they conscript their members is through the families of the order, and it's usually the second child of the family that gets drafted in. So Galen, unfortunately, was that member of his family, so he hasn't actually ever really known his parents because he's been kept away from them as he's developed his skills as a warrior priest within the Ember Order. Now, the Ember Order itself has obviously given him a lot of training over the years, and has now sent him out on this path, and it is a path of discovery, like a pilgrimage. And he's out there to embrace this embrace his faith and spread the word of the faith of the Ember Order. That's really him in a nutshell. He's quite a introverted character. He doesn't really put himself out there, but his faith is what guides him, and he's willing to step in and I guess punish people who would speak ill of the Ember Order.
Awesome. And how does he look as he strides his way into the bar?
Well, he's got this big cloak on him, you said. No, he's fine. So he obviously holds his position. He's this stereotypical warrior priest, so he's clad in this heavy leather armour. Obviously, he's a bit of a scholar. He likes his reading, so he's got a number of books chained to his his belt, that he's obviously making notes as he goes on his journeys and reading the scriptures of the Ember Order. He carries with him his trusty mace, a signature weapon of the Ember Order, fairly brutal in its ability to dispatch its foes, but he doesn't often like to use it. He does regret when he has to dish out punishment. But yeah, I feel like he's still fairly youthful in his age. But yeah, he's obviously where he is in his life, and we're about to find out where that takes him.
Brilliant. So as you walk into the bar, the sort of trinket catching your eye as you walk in, you look forwards and see the space in front of you. It's a large square room, a number of different tables just arranged around. There's a fireplace over to one side. There's a light hum to the area. But actually there's a couple of denizens around, but you do get caught by an individual behind the bar. She's there, blonde hair plaited to one side, a blue tattoo over her left eye. She's there holding on to a large tankard, giving it a wipe, and has this air of authority around her. She looks up to you and goes, "Ah, hello, one more patron. Please come on in or out of the rain."
Ah, what a fine establishment. It's mighty cold outside. Please, pour me a beer. And I shall take seat over at this fire to warm my buttocks.
I would indeed suggest that warming yourself after the rain is a good idea. I shall get one beer sorted for you, and I shall bring it over to you. Livy! And she claps her hands, and this smaller individual comes out. This time her face is slightly pale green. You can see her human-like ears have a slight tip at the sides. Whilst the person who greeted you is clearly human, the person that she's just beckoned seems to have some form of orc in her blood. She looks to be in her early teens, and she comes across carrying a little tray and looks at this individual and goes, "Yes, mum, yeah." And she finishes pouring the pint and puts it on the side, and she eagerly follows you to the table. As you make your way towards the table by the fire, you see another individual that's already actually taken the spot you were after. It's a rather large orc that you recognise from some adventures of your past. Rob?
This is Mac. He is an orc, and he is a big orc. probably the biggest orc you've seen. He's also a very, very well dressed for an orc, wearing probably the most ornate armour you've ever seen a orc wearing, but that isn't necessarily saying a great deal. He's the most noticeable thing about him is that he is big. He is very big, and by his side he has a fairly substantial sheep that he is just petting and trying to encourage to eat some of his bowl of stew.
I hope it's not a lamb stew.
Okay, so
I wouldn't like to guess what's in the stew at this point in time.
So as you walk across, you sort of recognise him from. It must have been a couple of months ago that you met this orc.
Mac, is that you?
Galen! Ah, my friend. Come, I haven't seen you in a long time. Come, sit. This is my friend. This is Jeremy. Say hello to Jeremy.
Oh,
I pat the sheep and introduce you to him.
And Jeremy, hello. It's been a while. I'd say I'm surprised to find you in a pub, but after our last adventure, I think you may have developed some sort of love for the beer.
The human beer is questionable, but pubs aren't bad. What brings you this way, Galen?
Oh, well, I've been on the road for a month or so, adventuring up this way, and obviously, with the weather outside turning and the evenings getting darker, I thought I would find a place to rest my weary shoulders for the evening.
Yes, that's good. You are looking peaky.
Peaky? All right, Mr. Orc.
Your arms, they are
right,
they are looking a bit weak. You looked stronger last time I saw you, but we'll get you fed up here.
Yeah, well, can I have some of this stew, or is this all going to Jeremy? Like,
he doesn't.
You know, there's lamb
like
in this stew, Mac.
That will make him stronger. He will have
and a
his
cannibal,
lamb
mate.
in him and lamb from the stew in him.
Oh dear, Mac. We need to have a conversation.
But
So
he does not seem hungry. You may have his stew, but if he wants it back, I'll hand you the stew that's been forced quite aggressively into a sheep's face.
Thanks, Mac. Much appreciated.
It is good. I've just come back from the mountains. It's where Jeremy came from. Are you here to do work?
Well, I'm here as the order sends me. I follow the wills of the Ember Order. They have sent me up into this region, but I don't know why I'm here as of yet.
No, I don't know why you're here either. I'm here to drink and eat and find more adventures.
So as you sort of have this moment of rekindling your friendship from your adventures a couple of months back, another individual strides into the bar, opening up the door, again covering himself from the rain because he doesn't want to get his metallic skin damaged in any way, shape or form. Lee.
So in walks my character. So I'll just give a bit of insight into what I am first. I am playing an Orion, who is basically a mechanical man. They're sort of humanoid in shape. They can range from sort of 4 to 7 foot tall. My character in particular is around sort of 6'6". Basically, Orion society, they were originally like built for weapons of war, to be weapons of war. However, over time things weren't needed as much, and they actually branched out, became other kind of professions. And the way their names are formed is that their first name is either like a standard kind of name, or it might be like an onomatopoeic word, so like, you know, splish or splash or whatever, something like that. middle names are like their family lines, and then the kind of last name is their very matter of fact. So, you know, whatever they do as a profession is their last name. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce Tink Taylor to the group. So he strides in. He's got like a kind of poncho over him. He kind of tosses it to one side, and you can see that he's wearing like a bowler hat. He's got very kind of like, I guess, kind of goldy, brassy kind of coloured skin, but his kind of face is quite featureless, other than a pair of eyes and a mouth. He's also quite well dressed in that he has a sort of long, sort of tailed kind of coat and pinstripe trousers, and his kind of boots. You're not sure if they're his actual feet or whether they're actual boots that he's wearing, but they kind of look like they've got sort of spats on them. They're like sort of formal dress shoes with the kind of white coverings over, and he carries a kind of cane, and he sort of looks around the bar. He catches the eye of the bartender,
and sort of as you do so, she sort of looks up and says, "Ah! Seems like we've got an influx of people this evening. Pleasure. And is there anything that you would like?"
"Greetings, human. I would require a room for the night. The weather has become adverse, and this has become far too treacherous for me to continue my journey to Orgrin."
"Well, that is perfectly within our reach. We are a coach house after all. Would you be looking for a private room or a bunk in the communal rooms?"
"Your most expensive room, please."
"Well, we do like to run a bit of a house." You sort of see for a moment she just looks to one side and sort of flicks through a little book and goes, "Well, we do have a very, very special room. It'll cost you 5 silver for the night."
"Perfect." And he just kind of pulls 5 silver out of his coat pocket and just kind of tosses it casually on the bar. And it's quite disdainful in manner.
And she sort of goes, "Why, thank you." And you sort of, here you go, first roll of the night. You can roll an empathy check.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So this will be a perception empathy check. Excuse me.
Okay, let's get my character sheet up. Perception, I have no focus in that, but my perception is 2, so I'm adding 2 to this roll. That is, okay, I've got a 5, a 5 and a 4.
A 5, a 5,
so 10,
a 4.
14, 16. I'm guessing I don't need any stunts on
well,
that with a double.
So this is a great time to talk about that, actually, because you've rolled a double, which does give you some stunt points. So you have, when you roll dice, you roll 3d6, trying to beat a DC. Lee has successfully beaten that DC, and because he rolled a double, he gets something called stunt points, which allows him to sort of expand on what he's done. So at this moment, you have picked up on the fact that she's giving a wry smile as she takes this money from you. You get the idea that, you know, she may have overcharged you a little bit for her services after your little statement of your most expensive room, and she sort of has that little micro expression in the corner of her mouth with a little wry smile and a little bit of laughter coming out, which you just about pick up on.
He kind of cocks his head kind of curiously, but obviously being an Orion, he doesn't really think much more into that.
So, awesome. So as you sort of are passing over this money, you two look up and around the room, and you again are drawn to the fireside where there are 2 individuals that you recognise from an adventure you had a couple of... and a sheep. Two individuals and a sheep over by the fireplace, sat engaged in conversation with this bowl of stew being passed back and forth.
Yeah, he kind of just looks over and he just kind of stares. He doesn't make any attempt to wander over, I guess, at this point. I think he's just kind of standing there waiting to be shown to his room.
Okay, do we spot him?
So I would say that with you passing this out, with where you're sat, with your back to the wall, you do sort of see this metallic figure and face that you recognise wearing that top hat, just sort of staring over in that slightly awkward way that you remember.
Bowler hat.
Galen, isn't that Tink? Galen, look. And he, Tink!
Have you been drinking? No, come on, mate. It's not going to be Tink, is it? And then obviously Galen kind of turns around and goes, No, that is Tink. Tink! Over here.
He kind of hears this, and he kind of his head kind of snaps round. And if an Orion could express like what's the word? Just these guys again. You kind of you maybe don't pick up on it, but if he could, he probably would. And he, after a second or two, he kind of decides to wander over. He kind of strides across to the table.
Oh.
Greetings, fellow patrons.
All my friends are here. Oh, is Reg with you?
And he kind of cocks his head, and he's like accessing a memory. Negative, sir.
Oh.
Reg and you left months ago.
That is a shame. But 2 friends is still not too bad. Waitress. 2 drinks for me and 2 more for my friends. The priest is paying.
And as you sort of see this,
Wait a second.
this small teenager sort of like she's scrubbing away at the tables and sort of hears what you say and sort of runs sort of eagerly over to the bar where her mother is there, sort of picking up on what you've said and sort of goes, "Yes, of course, I'll add it to his tab," and sort of starts pulling the pints for you and sort of puts them onto the little tray, and you sort of see this little girl run over and she pops it down and she eagerly puts it down, and then she picks it back up and runs back to her mother and sort of puts the tray back and sort of goes back into the bar, just starts cleaning bits and pieces around. And so at this moment that you're sort of watching her, you take in the wider sort of patrons that are sat in this bar, and there's not many people there. There's a couple of travellers, you can sort of see a couple of merchants just to one side. I mean, when you all entered and sort of left your horses in the stables, for those of you who have horses, you sort of noticed there were a few there, but there is one individual that sort of just catches your eye, just sort of sat all by themselves, just observing everybody in the room. Jay.
Shalom. All right. Yeah, I haven't spoken for a while. Can everyone hear me all right still? I've been messing around with my mic.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so what you would see sitting in the corner of the bar is someone who looks quite out of place, probably. Almost barbaric in their appearance. He's an elf. But where elves are usually quite tall, he looks remarkably shorter for an elf. He's wearing a sort of shoulder cloak, you usually see like in fantasy things like the wolf cloak with a wolf's head sort of thing. Forget that, it's not that. It's made almost entirely of like crow feathers. On his head is almost like what looks like the skull of a large avian beast. So the bill or beak even comes down. A bill would look stupid. Yeah, a beak would come down off the top of it. Very, very pale for an elf, and yeah, he's just a very suspect-looking person. I mean, I'm going to assume, even though the DM's gone, that you would recognise him as part of a sect called a Bryo Druid. So a Bryo Druid is they're sort of shunned, left to themselves. They live mainly in the forests, and they use magic, basically, to create small... Where'd he come from? Where'd you go, John? You just popped out of nowhere.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Secrets.
So yeah, they use their magic to create almost yurts out of brambles, basically. They live quite a hard existence out in the forests. They're nomadic people, and what they do is they create their Bryo villages, stay for a period of time until they've eaten just enough to keep the ecosystem alive, and then they move on to somewhere else. But before they go, they use quite a lot of what's the thing that makes them shunned is a bit of blood magic, a bit of dark magic, but they use it in a good way. They worship a god called Rook, which is R-U-U-K, and they believe that Rook is the great carrion god, and through carrion and through turning the living into fertilizer, they use their magic plus, let's just say, ingredients in the area they're about to leave, and that really boosts the growth in that area. They plant some seeds, do their magic, and move on. By the time they've done their cycle of the forest, which takes about 2 years as nomads, when they come back to that area, it's absolutely abundant and it'll feed them for the next period of time. They are sort of demonized a bit as grave robbers because they do use reagents using dead things. People think they're grave robbers, they're murderers, they're sort of like the boogeyman sometimes. But that's not exactly true. On the flip side, if there's ever a plague or a battle, people love them to come along because they just take all the bodies away and dispose of them, stopping any further disease. It's that sort of, people like them when they need them. But yeah, his name is Gillis Skyrake, and he's a bit of an outcast. The fact that he's even actually in a pub and not out in the forest anyway is odd in the first place. Yeah, he spotted you guys. You look a bit of sorts, and he just bimbles over. He says, "You guys seem to be adventurers of a type."
We are great adventurers. I am Mac. This is my friend Galen and my friend Tink, and this is my sheep Jeremy.
Tink kind of butts in and says, "Acquaintance."
I understand, Tink.
Really good friend.
You're a bit of a
Come on, Tink.
You're a
We're
bit
more
of a
than that.
mishmash group for an area such as this. Anything I can join you with? I mean, I fancy a bit of socialisation. The people around here are boring.
Me too. I've been walking through the mountains on my own for the last week. Good to have friends again. Come join us. Elves need feeding up. You're so weedy. Come. Another drink for my new friend. The priest is paying. And a bowl of stew for him.
And as you do that, you sort of see her like, and she goes, "Keg, another bowl of stew." You sort of hear this sort of gruff voice come back, go, "Okay, another bowl of stew, yeah." Sort of come booming out of what you assume must be the kitchen at the back of the bar. And again, you go round to your sort of, again, the small orc, Livy, comes round with more drinks for you, puts them down, and sort of actually, considering you've only just asked for some beers, she's now putting more full beers on your table. So I believe in total you've now got about 6 beers just sat on this table, most of which have yet to be drunk. And she sort of like looks round at you all, and you can sort of see her head going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she looks at the sheep, then looks at the beer, and then sort of just like shrugs and sort of walks off back to her mother, who again is just there cleaning, wiping down the table. You can see her doing some bookkeeping at the side. And as you're sort of sat there, you can hear the rain becoming a little bit harder outside, sort of rattling against the windows, and the weather seems to have taken a little bit of a turn.
At this point, Tink is kind of examining a piece of the stew that Galen was eating. He's kind of just got it like up like this, and he's like, you can see the little lenses kind of whirring as he's like inspecting it microscopically, and then he kind of just drops it back in the bowl.
Oh, Tink, I am sorry. Did you want stew too? Do you eat stew?
No, Mac. I do not require sustenance.
It is
Thank you for asking.
It is not very good stew.
Yes, I can see that this thing was rather past its sell-by date.
Yes, it is sad. Oh, Tink, have you met Jeremy? And I pick up the sheep and I plonk him in Tink's arms.
Tink kind of like staggers back at this and just kind of drops the sheep. He's like, he doesn't like really want to be holding it. His cane kind of clatters to the floor as well that he was holding. But
Tink, I reckon you could make a pretty good garment out of that sheep's wool.
That is why sheep are so good. If you are lonely, the sheep is company. If you are cold, the sheep is warmth. If you are hungry, the sheep is food. Sheep is everything.
Tink's kind of like mulling this over. He's like tapping. You can hear like the clinking of his finger tapping on his face as he kind of mulls over what he could make with that sheep in terms of clothing.
There's sort of like, as you
Factually, the orc isn't wrong.
as you drop this sort of sheep to the floor, it sort of like just plops onto the floor, and it's sort of like you could just see it like looking around a little bit confused at what's going on. It's for a sheep, it's surprising that it hasn't yet run off. It does seem to be sort of just sticking around Mac, and sort of like looks up at you and then trots back towards Mac and sort of stands by its side and sort of looks up at Mac, sort of in a rather tame sheep way.
I give him a pat.
And
Good Jeremy.
It sort of like shuffles its ears side to side and sort of enjoys the pat on the head, and then sort of like starts sort of like doing little circles, rather like a dog, and then sort of just like lies itself down, looking rather like just a cloud that's settled on a part of the floor.
Well, guys, it seems like we're going to have to get through some of these beers. So at that point, I'm going to reach for one of the beers. Well, reach for two of the beers. I'm going to hand one to Gillis, who's joined our kind of little social gathering that we've got around the fireplace, and said, "Here, have one of these. I can't have Mac drinking all this beer on the table."
Yeah, thanks.
Yep, I'm going to grab one too. And cheers.
Cheers.
Down my
The
drink.
whole time, Tink just kind of sits there.
So as
He grabs the chair.
you start to sort of drink, another orc, half orc teenager walks out of the kitchen. He's got much darker skin. Again, he's got long, light brown hair, and sort of almost seems to be growing stubble on his face. He walks across with this tray and sort of plonks it down onto the table in front of you and sort of hands out another stew and says, "Oh, if you'd like any more, just ask my dad. He'll make you some more up and enjoy the lamb stew." And sort of picks it up and sort of starts walking back into the kitchen. And sort of as you do so, you see Livy, who's previously been cleaning tables, sort of notices there's a few others, and she sort of looks up expectantly at her mum, and you start hearing sort of a little bit of conversation between them, and she sort of smiles broadly and runs off upstairs. To return a couple of minutes later holding some form of little lute, and she sort of sits down on the side of an empty chair and just starts sort of strumming away some pretty nice music. Whilst her chores are done, she's enjoying her spare time.
At this point, Tink is still just scanning the room. He's said very little at this point. He's just looking around.
Okay, so
every so often.
as you look around the room, you sort of see that there's two other individuals sort of in the far corner next to the door. They look like traders. They sort of don't have armour or anything along those kind of lines with them. They sort of have some large bags. They sort of seem to be just engaged in conversation. Over the other side of the room, there's Livy playing her little lute. And behind the bar, you've got Natalia just there, sort of doing the odd bits and bobs. And then every quiet moment, she sort of just picks up a book and starts sort of going through the book and reading what's there.
Okay, at that point, I want to just start. Well, Gillis wants to start petting Jeremy for a good solid minute. Just hand on sheep, pet him. Well, unaware to the other guys is that
Heavy petting,
Gillis,
is
yeah,
that what you're saying?
stroking that sheep. Gillis has quite long, sharp fingernails, and he uses it to just dig into his own hand, creating a tiny droplet of blood. And as he's petting the sheep for a minute, he murmurs a spell that basically puts a blood mark on it. For those unaware, that means I can basically track this sheep wherever it goes. Thinking that I couldn't put my hand on any of you guys for a minute,
GPS
having just met
sheep.
you, it'd be a bit dodgy. So this sheep is really enjoying getting a good petting. So that's going to cost me 3 magic points.
Nice. Cool.
It's a
Yeah.
tracking device.
Well, I think if I can find the sheep, I'll be able to
Cool.
find Mac. And he's pretty hard, it looks like, so... Yeah.
What happens if Mac eats the sheep?
No
Can you
idea, we
still
haven't worked that
track
one
it?
out. There's a plot twist.
One way to find out.
Depends if he eats it.
They need some more
Yeah, I
mutton
mean,
for this
technically
lamb
it'd be
stew.
sort of
Sort
on
of-
the wool. He has to eat the wool as well. I don't know. How does that magic work? I'm not sure if that blood magic
So
actually
it's-
requires a roll. I don't think it does. Let me double check. Carry on, John. I'll just double check in the background.
So whilst you're doing that, so that the sheep is really enjoying a good scratch behind the ears and sort of a ruffle through the fur, and Mac, it looks like Gillis is sort of taking to your sheep, Jeremy, and Jeremy seems to be enjoying the attention of your refound friends and new companion that's joined you. As you sort of continue to sort of catch up and join in, I would like Tink, can you make a perception check, please?
I can.
Hearing.
Perception. Okay, I've got no focus in that. Oh, wow. Okay. 6, 6, and 3. 12, 13, 14, 15, 17.
It sees into the ether.
It does.
Yeah, so as you're sort of sat there listening, you hear you sort of just pick up on what sounds like hooves, just sort of like plopping in mud, just from outside one of the windows. You can just about make it out through this sort of thickness of rain, and you can sort of just hear this sort of like squelching of hooves.
Curious. Is it kind of coming to a stop outside, or is it just going past?
No, it just sort of sounds like it's outside, sort of by the stables.
Would any of you happen to have a horse moored at the stables?
No, I just.
I don't appreciate beasts of burden.
No, I
Rook
arrived
gave
here
us
on
legs.
foot.
We should use them.
Why do you ask, Tink?
I hear some rustling of hooves outside, which seems very odd, given that nobody has come in or left this establishment in the last few minutes.
So at that point, can I go to the kind of nearest window and try and look outside?
Okay, so the nearest window to you is sort of just beside the fireplace. So the fireplace that's sort of near the end of your table, there's a large window out to the side, and you sort of have a look outside. Roll a perception check. So you're sort of having a glance.
Perception is perception plus.
So for this one, it is I'm going to say it's not searching. I'm just going to say I'm going to say searching. You're having
Okay,
you're having a look.
so it's just perception then for me. So 5, 6, and 8, 9.
9. Okay, so sort of as you're looking outside, literally all you can see is just like rain thundering down onto the window outside. You can't really make anything out. There's no sort of torches on the road. There's nothing that's sort of giving you any sort of warning symbols or anything. It's just like it's raining hard out there.
I can't see a thing, Mac. I don't know what you've picked up on. No, not Mac. Tink. I can't see anything. The weather's so bad out there. I don't know how you can even hear anything through
Perhaps
that
it is
noise.
nothing. Your human ears may not be able to perceive what my superior Aurian physique can.
All right.
If he could look smug, he would. But he's expressionless.
So you sort of like you plunk yourself back onto your seat, and you sit back down, and you continue to pass beers and share tales. Tink, make another perception check. Because you rolled so high on the last one.
Oh, not so good this time. 3, 4, 7, 8, 10.
10. Okay. You sort of go to listen. You sort of go back, and the rain is just covering up that noise. Maybe it was rain.
At this point, Tink's going to ask Gillis, why would a druid such as yourself be in this?
No, I was
town?
waiting for that question. To be honest, it's a bit of a biggie. I'm a bit of an outcast from my people. My people are usually humans, and obviously I'm an elf. I don't know how I came to be, a briar druid sort of child, but yeah, I grew up with them, and I totally believe in the Old Father Rook and taking things, putting them back into the ground to further nature. It just turns out that, I was a bit of a radical, apparently. Who would have thought that really thinking hard on the teachings of Rook made my Chief Briar Lord quite jealous of my abilities, and sure enough, I was ousted from the tribe, and I guess I'm kind of hunted now and shunned by my own people. But long story short, and this might sound crazy, and this is why I'm sitting with you guys right now, is I had a vision. It was empowering, and it's got to be from Allfather Rook. I dreamt that I seen an owl in some trees, and it was telling me where to go, and the owl was speaking in a language I couldn't understand. And then I could look behind me, and all I could see were raiders hundreds of raiders with massive round shields, heavy armor, just laying waste to everything in their path. It turns out, sleeping in the forest where I commune with my god the most, I just get haunted by the visions. Now, it seems I stay in these horrible establishments you people build, and I can actually sleep for a bit. When I found one called the Dandy Owl, I just thought it's a sign from Rook. I had an owl in my dreams telling me where to go, and here I am. Then I seen you guys, and I've been here for a couple of days, and you're the most interesting thing that's happened, so I thought this is it. This is the sign I needed. And here I am. Hope it doesn't sound too mental for a sort of a first date.
Curious.
Yeah, you look like a handy bunch.
You are right. We are the most interesting people here. Me especially.
I can tell that already, Mac.
That's some interesting story, Gillis. That's some interesting
It's not a story. You make it sound like I'm making that up.
Were you pursued by marauders as you came into this?
No, I've been here a couple of days.
Tink just can't comprehend dreams. They're just an alien concept to him. He's just kind of... He continues to like probe you with questions like based on like, you know, literal kind of interpretations of what you saw in your dream.
Imagine...
So since you've been here... Since you've been here a few days, have you... you know, based on the tale that you've just told us, like, have you noticed any raiders? Have you noticed any commotion in the region?
No,
what
it's
have
been pretty quiet.
What have you been aware of?
Bar brawls. I mean, to be honest, I like to stay moving. Staying still for a couple of days was a massive gamble. Tonight was my last night. If nothing of note happened, I'd have to go back out into the forest and try and tease something out of the visions I keep having. So, yeah, I mean, you guys are my last shot at really trying to further whatever it is Rook wants from me.
Perhaps I may have a use for you.
That's fantastic.
You see, I'm in this area. A shipment of my finest winter coats never arrived in Orgrin. I felt it pertinent to ascertain their whereabouts myself. Perhaps you, with your skills, may be able to assist me.
If they're in the forest, then I am definitely your man. If it's in a city or something, I don't do well with people or built-up areas or really technology. No offence. Yeah.
Manifests from Orgrin didn't indicate that they even reached the town.
Okay.
So it could be that they have ended up in your forest.
Was this the town of Tosca?
Orgrin.
Well, the forests are plagued with bandits. I do live in the forest, but I can blend in pretty well. I've seen a few little camps, 2 or 3 man groups, but I wouldn't call them raiders. Nothing like the terrifying, horrible, massive raiders from my visions. More like just brigands.
So at this moment, everything sort of seems to pause as this is almighty crash as the door of the bar slams open, and emerging out of the door is this big brute of a man, 2 axes in hand. He just looks, and he just roars at you all, and sort of just starts like going towards the merchants on the side, and just brings his fist up and smacks one of them in the face and knocks them down to the ground. And behind him, 3 others just charge into the bar. I would like you all to roll initiative.
So,
at this point, Tink stands up and shouts, "I say, sir, would you happen to know the whereabouts of my finest winter coats?"
Yeah, and Mac finishes the drinks that are on the table quickly.
Oh, okay. So prior to combat,
Sorry, John. Can you just tell us what we need to do for initiative?
So yes. So
how do we roll
initiative roll is 3d6 plus your dexterity.
I'm on a total of 8.
Oh dear. 13.
Okay.
12.
So
12 for me, please.
So we've got. So first off, anybody greater than 15? No. Oh, I've got to roll mine. Let's see what I get. No. So between 10 and 15.
Yep.
Yep.
12.
13.
12.
8 for me.
Cool.
Elves notoriously dexterous.
And Jay, what did you get?
Whopping 8.
Whopping 8. Fantastic. So, combat in Age is relatively fast, or can be relatively fast, depending on what's going on. for those of you who are seeing this at some point, we've got a battle map. So what we've got outside is it's a relatively square room. There's sort of two. There's the corner where. I just realised you've reloaded. There's a corner where. What's her face? Livy is sat next to her side, just to the left-hand side of the door as you're sort of looking at the main door. On the right-hand side is the table where the merchants were sat. You're sort of in the back corner of the room, sort of next to the fire, sort of sat with your beers in hand, and sort of as you look towards the door, there are these four individuals. None of them have shields, but they've crashed through the front door. None of them have shields, and they moved straight across, sort of to cause what you can only assume is a little bit of trouble. So there's a couple by the door who have just bundled through. The first man has gone through into the doorway. Just realised that's not loaded at the moment. There we go, let's try that again. The first man sort of has barged through the door, these axes in hand, gone over to the trader on the side, knocked him down onto the ground pretty much in one hit, and they're just sort of looking around the room, being boisterous and loud and just scary and intimidating. One of them sort of from the doorway is moving over towards Livy as she plays her through, and she's just there shocked. And at the same time as all this is happening, you sort of look around the room and you see Natalia just sort of drop the book she's going and reaches underneath the desk and just pulls out this bow, and she sort of picks up from underneath this arrow and just starts pulling it to one side. So first off, Lee is going to be up first because they've had their go. Apologies, the camera has decided that it doesn't want to work, which is great. I don't know why that's decided it stopped. So Lee, if you want to describe what you would like to do whilst I'm just trying to sort this out. Hello? Lee?
Yeah, Lee's frozen on mine.
Lee's frozen.
I think Lee is.
Oh, Lee has dropped.
Disconnected.
Okay, well, Lee would be first. So Lee's go is up first, but hey ho. So we'll go for Mac. What would you like to do?
These people they attacked the man. They didn't just push him out of the way.
Yeah, so they sort of came in and they just like knocked him down to the ground, like knocked him out, and you can sort of see the raiders there, just sort of looking round, sort of at the ground.
Alright, I'm going to lean over to Jeremy and say, alright, Jeremy, you remember what I told you? Now, stay out the way. And I will load my crossbow and go, hey, that's very rude. And I'll shoot him.
Okay, so you're going to shoot the guy who's just charged in with these two axes. Okay, so roll to hit, 3d6.
Ooh, alright, so that's 11, 13.
Cool. So you rolled 13. The defense of this individual is 11. So you get to roll damage because you have successfully hit.
Okay. Oh, well, I've got to remember what my crossbow does. 2d6 plus 1. Okay. Wow, that was impressive. That was for a grand total of 3 points of damage.
3 points of damage. So, as this man sort of like, as he's there sort of like smacking, he sort of like looks up and the leather armour he's wearing just sort of like wears the crossbow bolt over his shoulder, and he sort of like looks towards you and smiles and sort of grabs hold of both these axes firmer in his hands. Tink, you're up.
Oh my. Engaging defence protocols, and at this point he kind of just kind of shakes his cane slightly, and it basically he draws like a rapier type thing out of it. It's like obviously a false cane. At this point he again shouts, I'm looking for the whereabouts of a shipment of my winter coats. Would you happen to know where they are?
And sort of as you shout this out, they go, ha ha, we've probably got it. And this man sort of like with these two axes has sort of like got some sort of like, you just feel like he's enjoying this far, far too much.
So at this point I think Tink is going to stride, sort of not like rush over to him, but he's just going to start to make his way over.
Okay, well you can get to him just by walking. He's not very far away.
Oh, he's there, sorry, I thought it was the furthest one, sorry. And he's not really, Tink's not really raised his blade, he's kind of like wandering over to like speak to this man. I say, those coats do not belong to you.
And he's sort of just like a... And you could just see all this wry smile, like beaming smile and sort of open eyes as he just stares towards you. Galen, you're up next.
So, seeing all the commotion, I think I'm going to have to step in. So I'm going to pull out my mace. I'm going to move up to support Tink again and be like, what is this Taylor doing again? And come in to try and support him against these guys. And I'm going to take a swing at the one on the left. The one that I'm engaged with, basically.
Okay, so the one that's sort of following up, sort of with a single axe in hand, sort of like looks up towards you, and sort of like you come in and you go to hit it. Roll to hit.
Yeah, so I can I'll do a move, aim, and attack, melee attack.
Yep, fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah,
what does
aim adds +1 to your roll to hit. So obviously, whilst you're doing that roll, so each individual gets a minor and a major action. So actually, you wouldn't be able to aim purely because you moved.
Okay.
So you can only aim when you don't move, or as a minor.
Okay,
major.
so I won't aim. So I've done. So I've rolled a 4, a 3, and a 3. So that equals 10 plus my character's fighting, which I believe is 3. So
nice.
I believe. Let me just double check that. So I've got fighting of 3.
Yep.
With I think that's it. I think there's no. I've got a single weapon style novice. I'm not really sure what that grants me. What do the talents do?
So the talents provide you with sort of little buffs of depending on what it is. So for the one that you've just asked about, which is novice in single weapons, is that correct? That you've got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. So there's lots of different sort of characters. They have perks. They also have focuses. Okay, and they also have what you've got, which is talents. Okay, so single weapons provides you with the ability to fight effectively with single-hand melee weapons. So when you take an activate action, you gain a +1 defense bonus until the end of the encounter while fighting in this style. So basically what you can do is you can activate your single weapon style, and it basically gives you a +1 defense bonus. But you have to basically be using only a single-bladed melee weapon, nothing else.
Single-handed.
Yeah, I think the single weapon style, you define it, so I think I can say that it's my maul.
Yes, you can.
I think it's that bludgeon.
Yep, you can indeed.
Yeah, okay, so I'll do that. I've got, so I've rolled 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, because I think I'm adding my fight to this as well.
Yep, so 13 hits. Sort of as you come in, it just hits, so sort of like tries to bring his axe up to parry you as you come in with your maul, but you manage to get through and crack him on his forearm. Roll your damage.
Yeah, as my stunt as well, I'm obviously going to go in with this, but I'm going to go in with the defensive stance. Okay. So that's a combat stunt for 2.
Nice, yes, because you roll a double, so you get the stunt. Brilliant.
Yep, so I'm going to activate defensive stance, because I'm obviously aware that there are other bandits in this tavern, and I don't want to be caught unawares by them. So defensive stance, and then I roll my damage, which is on my maul is 1d6 plus 3. So I've rolled a 6, 9 damage.
9 damage. Okay, so as you sort of bring your maul down on his forearm, it sort of you hear this audible crack, and he goes ah, and he sort of screams. Like while some of his bracer has absorbed some of that damage, that was a pretty hefty hit on him. And you can sort of see the pain as he's wincing, sort of as he takes that crack. So that's. Okay, fantastic. So,
Galen, if you don't mind, I was about to speak to this gentleman.
I don't think he wants to speak to you, Tink.
So, up next is Gillis. Let's go.
Okay, so Gillis just steps out of his chair, really.
Oh no, it isn't. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Is it?
Yes, Gillis. Yes,
cool,
it's
right.
you.
So It's you. Gillis just pushes his chair back pretty hard, knocking it over, and basically takes aim. Do you aim with the arcane blast because it's used as a ranged attack? Is it still an aim, or would it be more of a focus?
No, it's aim. Aim is just like basically bringing everything together. So yes, you can use because it counts as a ranged ability. So
okay,
aim,
so
anything.
Gillis's arcane device,
aiming.
which is his item that he uses to cast things like Harry Potter's wand, is actually his headdress of the large Corvid skull. Corvid. Yeah.
Baseball cap.
It's just like a laser comes out of it and just bisects everything. No. And he goes to... he'll shoot at the one that Galen has already injured. Just sort of try and focus him down.
Okay, so
Arcane Blast.
Roll
my 3d6, sorry. I got 6, 5, 3 for 14, plus accuracy of 1, 15.
15. Well, that hits.
Just to say what happens, basically, his cloak, like I say, is mainly crow feathers. His Arcane Blast manifests as it looks like one of the feathers rises up off the cloak, turns into a crow, and just spears straight towards the target.
Nice.
That's his bag. It's hit. Damage is D6 plus willpower, so willpower is 3. D6 is 5, 8 total.
8 total. Okay, so as
I'm imagining Gillis looks a bit like that guy from the
he might
Erasmus.
do.
As this
Guilty.
So as this raven, as this sort of crow raven like bird just flies out of his cloak from this feather, as it sort of just plucks off and boom, fires forward, it sort of smacks this guy across the other arm. So he's just taken this hit on his bracer on one side and his arm on the other has been hit, and you can almost just sense the idea that he didn't sign up for this. Like he sort of gets knocked back a couple of times and it's just like cool. So up next is them. So what they're going to do is the big brute that's currently in a face-off with Tink is just going to have this massive smile on his face and is just going to rock his head back and smack it towards you. So
Oh dear.
he rolls 13 to hit. Which I believe, is that your defense?
Oh, sorry, my defense is 11.
11.
So
Oh, yeah,
you're
so
okay.
very much hit there. Okay, so
Uh-oh.
he's gonna, with his forehead, he's gonna hit you for, he's gonna hit you for 9 points of damage.
Minus my armor,
Minus your
5,
armor.
so 4.
So 4 points of damage to you. He just smacks you in the head. What he's then going to do is, because he rolled a double on his roll to hit, he's going to use a combat stunt to basically, as he's bringing his head back, he sort of does so with an extra panache of damage. Extra panache of strength sort of from his skull. And it sort of hits you. And as it hits you, it's sort of you feel the dent for an extra 4 points of damage. You don't take your armor away from that.
So 8 in total.
8 in total.
Gee.
From a headbutt. Bush. The guy behind him.
Are you done talking with this guy yet, Tink?
The guy behind him with this single axe, who's just turns and goes, "Nuts! No, and just starts to leave, and just takes himself and starts to run out the door. So him with his movement is going to move away. Now, as you're sort of in a defensive stance, Galen, you're waiting for the attack to come from him, and it takes you by complete surprise that actually, at the moment he takes those 2 hits, he just starts to leave and run out the bar. At the same time, what's going to happen is one of them over here is going to move towards, grab the girl, and is going to leave out the front door. So I'm going to say, in his movement, he goes 1, 2, 3. So he's going to get to the girl. He's going to do an opposed strength check on the girl to see if he manages to pick them up. Very much so. So the girl is hoiked up into his arms. And
She's still playing the lute as well.
the loot is, she's there. She dropped the loot when they ran in, and she's going to just be taken out by that chap there. This one here is going to run across to the big brute, grab hold of his arm, which is currently wanting to and is tugging on his arm and being no, Nut, come on. And you sort of see strangely for these raiders, there's a little bit of panic. So yeah, that is their go. Tink, you're up.
So after receiving that brutal headbutt, I guess Tink is going to sort of stagger back ever so slightly, and then you see his because he's got his rapier in his right hand. You see his left hand just sort of shoot up, pointing directly at the large brute that headbutted him. And there's out of nowhere there's a pistol in his hand, and he's just going to aim and take a shot. I think.
Go for it.
You know, now he's in full combat mode.
kill mode engaged.
He's not happy. Indeed.
Oh, so he's going to step back a bit. He's going to move back from the combat. And...
Yeah, he takes like a step. I mean, it's probably partly to do with the stagger from the headbutt, to be honest. But yeah, he's maybe moved back a space, as it were, if you wanted to do it on the map. So yeah, we're going to take a shot. So ranged attack roll is 3d6 plus accuracy of 2. So 4, and a 3. Plus 2, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13 hits. Roll your damage.
Okay, 1d6 plus 3. Oh, it's a 6.
It's a 6. 9 was damage. So, as you sort of bring your pistol...
I had a double 4 during that, John. Sorry,
oh,
I
yeah.
should have said.
So you get a combat stunt as well. So you've got 4 stunt points to spend. Oh, no, it's the number that's on your stunt dice.
4.
So 4 is on your stunt dice.
Oh, yeah. The 4 and the stunt dice was also 4.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to use one of those to rapid reload because he's got auto loaders on that thing.
Nice.
So obviously it's kind of partially built into his hand, I would say.
Yeah, so sort of, that's awesome. Cool.
2 points. I could knock him prone. Oh, melee attack though, so it doesn't work. A lot of these are...
You've got the Mighty Blow one, which is the one that I used, which is an extra d6 damage.
Yeah, or I could half your armour.
You could do. Lots of things you could do.
There is quite a lot, actually, isn't there? Lightning attack. You can make a second attack against the same enemy, or a different one within range of sight. Oh, well, there you go then. So if I use 1 to rapid reload, and then 3 to do lightning attack and make a second attack.
Nice. Yep, you can do that. So sort of as you pull the trigger, like the bullet flings out, and almost before the bullets hit the target, this sort of little mechanism comes out and just loads in another round, and you're ready to go again, and you pull the trigger for a second time.
Yeah, and I think he'll put 2 into this guy. I think he's
Cool.
he's trained enough to know that you always double tap. Oh dear, not so good this time. That is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10. So your first shot rounds out and it smacks him in the shoulder again. You need to roll your damage for that one, I believe. Oh no, you didn't. You rolled...
Oh.
What did you roll for the damage on that one?
I think I rolled a 6. I can't remember. Hang on, I'll re-roll
Yes, you
it.
did. You
I'll roll
rolled 6
again. No,
plus
it's
3.
alright.
Yes, you did. So you got another...
Oh.
Yeah, so that's fine.
9.
So 9
Okay.
points damage. Okay, cool. So sort of like the first round like hits into the man's sort of brutish arm, and you sort of see the bone almost exposed where the bullet struck in, and he sort of smiles a bit more at you, sort of with intent. And the second round like smacks and hits him in the forehead, but it like almost pings off his thick skull rather than the armour that he's wearing. Okay, Mac, you're up next.
Alright, seeing the girl being dragged off, I think I have just enough. I've got 12 movements, so I think I can just about get in front of the door and block it.
Is Jeremy an attack sheet? Can you like sick him on the...
It's not worms.
I'm not sure that he's an attack sheep.
Okay, so you,
Rigged with explosives.
Get him, boy.
so you're going towards the door.
Yeah.
How much move? Are you just running towards
12. No, I just my normal movement, so I've got 12 movements, so I think I should get in front of the door.
it? Right. So we're doing, for the movement, for our little battle board, if your movement is 12, we're going to half that. So it's like you could move 6 squares. So you could get to
Okay, that's
the middle
fine.
of- you
I'll
can
run
the
to
middle
get
of the
there then.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you can
Do you not do diagonals, John?
just about get to the door. No, diagonals count as 2, so you could, but diagonals count as 2, just for the grid.
Oh, wow, okay.
Alright,
So-
and I will.
So you've
as
moved.
my minor action.
And run's a major, so yeah, so you'd have a minor.
Alright, I will. I will drop the crossbow and get out my axe.
Okay, so you
Get out my not my axe, my whatever it is, maul.
Okay. So, as you do so, you sort of stand there, like, staring at the man, and he's like, yep. You can sort of see him holding this girl, like, looking at this rather large, imposing orc, just being like, judging my decisions right now. So, next up is Galen.
So if you can, so seeing obviously Mac run across the bar and block the door, I've also twigged that this guy's trying to leg it with this girl. So I think I'm going to need to go in there and support Mac. So let's move me across to this guy, and I'm going to try and. You can just move me diagonal.
So you've got that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And then I'm just going to tell him. Like, I'm just going to try and communicate, get him to drop. I'm going to say, drop the girl and your weapons and get the hell out of here. You're not wanted.
Okay. Roll an intimidation check.
Okay, fantastic. So I've got to do an intimidation check. So that's on my strength. So I've rolled. I've got a double. So 5, 10, 14, 16. And a double on 5, so I've got 5 stunt points to spend. So I will use my stunt bonus threaten as my class feature, whatever that is. It feels like I've pretty much scared the crap out of this guy with everything else going on the bar. I wouldn't be surprised if now with Mac blocking the door, this guy drops everything and heads to the nearest window and tries to evacuate through that.
Well, do you know what? You've read my mind. So what's going to happen is literally the man who sort of stood in front of you, like, is now looking at an orc and looking at what is quite a heavily armed individual, and sort of just like drops the girl in a very similar way to how Tink dropped the sheep earlier. And sort of Livy just hits the ground, and he sort of like looks at you with like abject fear. We'll see what he does when it gets to his go.
Cool.
So up next is over to Gillis.
Okay, so Gillis is still stood at the back of the bar watching it all unfold, so imagine there's quite a lot of things. It's a bit of a commotion. So you just reiterate the sort of what I'm looking at on the battle board to me.
Yeah, so what you've got is you're stood at the back, and currently in front of you there's sort of 2 scenes unfolding. There's the scene at the door with Galen and Mac, who are just sort of stood in front of this door, and there's this person just holding a small teenage girl, who then drops the teenage girl and is just currently like stood in fear. In front of you there's Tink sort of standing off with this big brute of a man who's just like head-butted him. And there's another man just behind him, like trying to drag him away, which seems a little odd.
Okay. Are they both still armed, the ones Tink and Thingy are facing?
Yes. Tink's one is very much armed. He's got 2 axes in hand and is like staring at Tink with like an intent.
Okay. In that case, I'm going to try and... Are the axes hafts made of wood?
They are indeed, yes.
Okay, I'm going to try and actually use regrowth as a spell on one of the axes.
Nice.
Yeah, and try and just make it so it's unwieldable. Just bend it back on itself or something so you can't get any index in from swinging the axe.
Nice, go for it.
So regrowth itself is... test none but target number 10. Let's have a go with that. I'm doing all my...
There's 3d6. Got to be the 10.
I got 13. Do I add anything? Is int to spells, is it?
Int is... it depends on the spell, it normally says. So I think with that, if it says there's nothing to add, then you don't... You've just got to beat 10.
So it's major action, test 9, beat 10. So just for description for you guys in future, it does regrowth is you infuse wood with a burst of life force, causing a piece of dead wood to return to life. Sprouting branches, roots, even leaves. It twists and wraps wooden objects like furniture, doors, chests, and even weapons and shields, making them unusable. If I use it on a seed, it matures into a heartly sapling in an instant. If I use it on a mature tree, it will enjoy a whole year's worth of growth instantly and immediately give forth fruit and seeds as appropriate. Okay, so he's got 2 axes. I'm not sure. Actually, did I get? I didn't check for stuns. Sorry, hang on. Let me check my roll. I got 2 stunt points.
Nice, cool.
Crikey, I've got to find the spell stunts.
Have it
So you got
constrict and crush his
spells.
hand.
Yeah.
Oh, one short.
Ah.
I'll just use skillful casting to reduce the cost of that by 1, so it only costs me 2.
Nice, cool. So as you
I was
sort of
hoping to
like
get
cast
split
this,
spell and do both axes.
so as you sort of begin to cast this spell, you sort of see this sort of like big brute of a man, just like his axe in his right hand, just sort of like starts to curve and grow, and sort of seems to sprout little twigs out its side, which then poof, leaves just appear, and it sort of starts to warp and change, and the shaft of the axe just bends out of place and starts sort of almost becoming like a rather like a branch just in his hand. And you sort of see this man who's gone from this brutish approach sort of like starts looking at his hand with like a little bit of confusion. He might still be able to hit you with it, but yeah, the axe is certainly no longer like the axe shaft is just pointing the wrong direction. That's really cool. Nice. So he's back up to there go. So the one in front of Mac and Galen, who's just dropped the girl, is just now gonna literally turn to his side where there's a window and just literally like sort of dives out the window just to one side, sort of, you know, rather like just flopping into a swimming pool, just outside of the window. As the window crashes and breaks, you hear a commotion outside. You hear hooves just sort of through the mud, and you sort of hear shouts of "Let's get out of here, we've done!" And sort of various other things just coming through the battering rain. You see that there's a couple of individuals, sort of those of you who are next to the window, you see torches just fly past the window and then suddenly extinguish and go out. At the moment, sort of, you hear all of this. You sort of hear this sort of horn from outside as well. And sort of at the moment that horn gets sounded, you sort of see the brute's currently in the room, or the big brute with the 2 axes just sort of like turns back with an absolute disdain towards this noise, looks back towards you and spits in your face, and just turns, looks at the door to see that it's barged out his way. He's going to just absolutely leg it towards the door. What I'm going to say is, Mac, can you make a strength check? Because what he's going to do is he's just going to try and sort of barge past you.
Mac's the strongest orc we know.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah,
He's
the
got
biggest
this.
orc we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen 2
I met
orcs.
2.
17.
17?
17.
Okay, so as this sort of big bloody man, like, you know, with his disfigured axe in one hand that's sort of just all over the place, and sort of like just sort of charges towards the door with this sort of intent on his face, he goes in with the shoulder against Mac, who's just stood, still looking at the sort of where the individual was that he just absolutely terrified. And Mac, you just feel this like thud on your back, and for those of you who can see it, you sort of see this big brute just like charge into his back and just sort of like stop, as if he's hit a brick wall. But it's weird. It's like he doesn't fall backwards; he just stops, sort of at the doorway. The one who was tugging on his arm sort of sees this and just goes to jump out the other window, and sort of launches himself out the window and leaves. So this chap's left. But as he does so, and that chap's left. But as he does so, he grabs hold of the merchant's bag on the floor from the one that was knocked out and just sort of jumps out towards sort of the sounds of hooves outside, and you sort of hear sort of muffled shouting over the sound of the rain. At this point, you also... the big guys run into the back. So, Tink, it's over to you.
I think you removed Tink rather than the
Yeah,
baddie.
you did. Yeah.
Did I? Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I did. That guy goes. So,
Okay.
Tink, you're up.
At this point, his assailant is getting away. So at this point, Tink's going to shout again. I say, come back! I need to know where my coats are. You brigand! And at this point, I think he might actually, because the guy's attention is now not on Tink. So I think what he'll do is he'll stroll over. I think he's close enough to get in a combat here. And with his short, so his pistol's kind of like, you know, left his hand, you know, it's folded back into his arm or whatever. With his short sword, I am going to make an attack on this guy. I think he's just going to try. He's going to go. He's not going for a kill. He's going for like a kind of, maybe going for the guy's legs or something.
Yep.
Go for the Achilles heel.
Sorry.
Go for the Achilles heel. Just cut him out of the back.
Yeah. So we're going to go with it's a melee attack of a short sword. I've also realised I've got a class power of pinpoint attack, which is once per round I can add 1d6 to the damage of a successful attack if my dexterity is greater than my opponent.
Okay, so what is your dexterity?
Only 1, sadly.
So it is not greater than his.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll go for 3d6. Oh dear. 4, 5, 6, 7 plus accuracy, so 9. Probably going to be a miss.
9. So as you sort of like come up behind him thinking, I've got him. You like trip? And so like when you go to swipe at the back of his legs, like you just trip and it just like hits air rather than leg itself. And you feel a little bit embarrassed because like, come on, that was a free hit you had there. Okay, up next is Mac.
Okay, well, I'm going to see the guy that just barged into me, seems he's the only one that's left, and take a swing at him with my maul.
Go for it.
Hey, what are you doing? Oh, that's not great. That's 9 plus something. Is it 3 dice plus my strength for the maul?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 13.
Oh, fight. It'll be for a maul. It's fighting. Sorry. Yeah. So your weapon will either be fighting or dexterity,
right,
and then damage
10.
will be strength and accuracy. Sorry, 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't hit. So as he sort of comes round with his axe, he sort of brings up this malformed twig and sort of like breaks it, and your maul gets stuck in the different branches of the twig, which just seem to be growing and growing and growing out. And so like this big burly man who was running around with 2 axes has now sort of got a bush in one hand, that within somewhere there's a metal end, and then in the other he's got this axe. And yeah, so you sort of bring it in and it just gets stuck into this bush. Right, so Galen, you're up.
I'm going to press the attack as my minor action, so if he tries to flee, I go with him.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
So seeing as like my action was to kind of like defend this patron, I guess this teenage half-orc, I think what I want to do is kind of get her to her feet and kind of move her away from this fight.
Yep.
So I'm going to pick her up and kind of like move her towards the bar to safety and kind of like defend her, seeing as I'm hoping that Mac and Tink have this kind of in their control.
I wouldn't put any money on Tink. It's not
okay, so what you notice as you turn around...
He's a tailor.
You turn around sort of to take the girl back towards the bar, you do notice Natalia, who was there with a bow, isn't any longer. And you do see, like, in the commotion that's just happened in the last few seconds, you see the door of the kitchen just, like, swinging from sort of side to side as if somebody's just, like, charged through it. But as none of you are sort of like looking at that general direction, you don't really know what's going on. But you sort of turn around and you sort of see on Livy's face, just like she like looks like a bit panicked and sort of just shouts out, "Mum, Mum!" as she looks round. Good. Over to you, Gillis.
All right, Gillis is going to sort of look back into his memories as such, and are these raiders similar, same but different to the ones in his visions?
Yes and no. Like, the man with the 2 axes feels like he's the same size. But they don't have those shields. None of them have shields.
Okay. In that case, yeah, I'm fairly certain that Mac and Tink have got this. I'm going to leap over the bar and look for Natalia's mother.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So your move can basically get you on top of the bar. So as you sort of like vault on top of the bar, that's where you can get to with your move.
Okay. Oh, unless I do a sprint.
Yeah.
As such. No, I'll just take it slowly at the moment. I'll do that.
Okay.
As a move,
cool.
And I might casually just arcane blast the guy that these guys are messing with, because I do think there's something
throw
off
another
about
crow
him.
at him.
Yeah, get crowed. Where's my roller?
Whoa, there's
Actually,
look at that. There's something in the bar. I can see it moving.
Eh? Oh yeah, an insect.
It's like a little...
Yes, there is an
Fruit
insect
fly.
in the bar. There is a
fruit fly.
fly.
On the
There's a
barrel.
fruit fly in the
Freaking me
bar. On the barrel. Okay, so as
Let me get my
you
roller
do that, so it's on to the enemies go again.
Hey, I got to shoot my
so-
magic missile.
Huh? Are you going to shoot your magic missile? Are you?
Throwing a crow.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, I
throw
missed
a crow.
that. Sorry.
that's all right.
It's crow
Distracted
time.
by-
Make a
fly.
crow sound every time you cast it, please.
I got 12. I got a 12.
A 12, that hits.
Oh, right. I thought it would be higher.
As the crow flies.
So D6 plus 3, so... Hang on, just get rid of 2 of these dice off my rolling thing. 6, 9.
Physical dice.
9.
Why? Because I forgot to pick them up when I was downstairs. I went downstairs to get physical dice and came back up with a cup of tea and some biscuits.
So,
Yes.
okay,
Oh, yeah,
so as this crow, like again, a feather pops off your cloak and just flies towards him, smacks him across the neck, gashes out the side of his neck, and sort of it starts to bleed sort of profusely, and he's sort of like, ugh. You can sort of see like a tired look on his arm, sort of like he looks in a pretty rough way, to be fair. Okay, so over to them. He's like going to look round. What he's going to do is he's going to sort of try and back off towards the window because he's like right next to it. So he's going to go 1, 2. As he gets to the window, what he's going to do is he's going to turn and fling his axe. Not the one that looks like a bush, but the other axe. He's just going to sort of like fling it towards Tink on his way out. And he rolls a 15 plus accuracy, so that's 17.
Yeah, that'll hit.
Okay, so he does 8 points of damage.
So 3 after soak.
Yeah.
Some great soak he's got.
Yeah, yeah.
For a tailor.
He's a bit of a tank. Tank.
So this
He's
is
made of wood.
This
metal.
axe flies towards you and smacks into your shoulder metal plate and just like sort of embeds itself in your shoulder. And the man just sort of like spits on the floor again and leaps out the window.
Shouldn't Mac be going with him at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mac was
How does Mac move?
tailing
Yeah,
him,
press
wasn't
the
he?
fight.
Sorry.
So
I
Mac
follow him
had
didn't
up to 6. Up to
Yeah,
well,
up to
12.
6.
Up
Up
to
to
6
12.
squares.
Okay, so that's cool. So you're basically in the window following him at that point. So he's just leaped out the window and you're sort of like at the window as he's going out the window. So over to Tink. What are you going to do?
Well, first of all, he's gonna look down at this axe kind of disdainfully. It's not a fatal hit. It's just kind of embedded itself. So he's just gonna kind of grab it and just like pull it out and drop it. You know, maybe sort of hold it at arm's length and drop it that way because he doesn't want to touch it and get dirty. Imagine Niles Crane from Frasier, and you're not far wrong.
A neurotic robot.
Yeah. So at this point, he's probably heard Livy shouting for her mum. So he's just going to kind of... He's seen Mac like bundle out the window, but he's kind of in a bit of an impasse here. He doesn't really know what to do, whether to continue with Mac and find out about these coats, or whether to assist in the bar. So I think at this point, he's just going to kind of stand there and reload his pistol because he's not really sure what he's doing.
Okay, so he's sort of like looking around, a bit confused as to what to do, and sort of
He's
just
kind of analysing the situation, yeah.
Puts
The
the
cogs are
bullet back
ticking,
in.
literally.
okay. Over to you, Mac.
Do I have any option of grappling?
Yeah, you can sort of. I would say that you can basically try and sort of like move after him and grapple him.
All right, I'm gonna try and do that then. I'm gonna try and grapple
Okay.
him and drag him back in here.
Okay, so that will be an opposed strength check.
Where's Jeremy at this point?
Ooh,
It's under
he's
the table.
hiding. I put him under the table. That's much better. So that is another 17 with a double 5.
So you grab hold of this guy's foot as he's launched through the window, and
Tear it off.
you hold on to it, and it's sort of like a pendulum, just swings him back into the side of the wall as you grab him. I'm going to say, because he was in the process of leaping out the window, roll a 2d6.
4.
4. Okay. So as you go to grab him, he's launched himself out this window with such effort and such power that as you grab his foot and he sort of swings back down towards the ground, he collides with the wall of the pub, and one of the black beams that's just outside on the whitewashed wall, you just hear this almighty crack and squelch and crunch as his head smacks against the corner of this bar. And all of a sudden, the foot that you're holding goes very, very heavy.
Okay. I will. If I've got anything left, I will bring him back in and have a look at him and see. Give him a...
Yeah, I'm going to say because you rolled so high with your strength check, you like hear this thwack and you just pull him up by this foot, like it's this orc, massive orc, just literally holding this brute of a man by his foot, and sort of like he just like a fish, just basically falls out of the window, head sort of squelching on the side as sort of this red matter just seems to be leaking out of his skull. His eyes have rolled back, bush in hand.
Right. I'll just drop him and just say, yeah, you should not have hurt my good friend Tink.
Thank
and
you, Matt.
You get no response from the lifeless body of the individual. Okay, so I believe that is everybody out of combat for the moment. So what we will do is I will end that. So yeah, combat has finished.
Can I just add something there?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
But as obviously Mac is holding this brute up, as his blood drips down onto the bush that's attached to his hand now, as the blood touches the bush, it starts to just go darker, starts sprouting instead of branches and leaves and stuff, thorns. Like really thick, long, pin-like thorns, about an inch long. It's just sort of a residual effect of my magic. Just that was it, really.
So yeah, so the bush starts to metamorphise into like a thorny bush. So certainly gone from a bush that you wouldn't mind getting a bit of a back scratch from one that could actually probably be used as a pretty hefty improvised weapon.
Yeah.
So everything sort of calms down. The silence of the fight and the intensity is sort of ebbs away, and the sound of rain just returns, pattering on the side of the windows, and is a little bit louder as you can hear the rain falling onto the squelchy mud outside the front of the coach house. What you do hear in this moment is you sort of hear this bastards, and sort of grunting and groaning coming from out the back near the kitchen.
Okay, I think I'm the closest one to the kitchen, so I'm going to pop my head round the door.
Yeah, so as you sort of hop yourself off the top of the bar, you sort of walk through to the back and you open up the back door and you see on the ground this dark-skinned orc. Big man, sort of nowhere near the size of Mac. But it's still got that orc physique.
Mac, the biggest orc.
He is also wearing like a white pinny at the same time. Has a rolling pin just like next to him on the side, a bit of blood on his forehead, and you sort of like look up at the kitchen and you see sort of various bits of the side of the storage have just been like ransacked. It's almost as if some people have just come in and just like grabbed hold of the side and sort of drawn it into things, and there's sort of mess here and there, just across the back side of the kitchen. Over the orc's body, you see the blonde-haired woman sort of licking a napkin and sort of patting onto his bruises and cuts across his forehead.
Okay, so what happened back here?
And so there's man sort of like the orc man looks up to you and goes, ugh. Goatee, short hair, short sleeves, beautiful blue tattoos, tribal tattoos. He said, stupid people came in through the back and knocked me on the head whilst I was making my lamb stew, and I maybe got one of them with the pin before another one took me down. Ugh. Wish I was younger back in the days when I could have taken them all by myself. And Natalia goes, there, don't worry, it's fine. You're not hurt at all. And she's just sort of like scraping the little bit of blood, and he sort of like looks up at her with his sort of loving eyes as they're sort of tending to each other. But he looks thoroughly annoyed.
I was going to ask if it was the same guys who we were fighting. Like, was it one of their mates, or was it just some locals who took advantage of the opportunity?
They must be Iceborne. Who else would it be? They're the ones that raid this coast. Bloody people. Coming here, stealing everything, killing people, maiming people. Oh, they're just a plague on our coast.
I'm just going to suggest they put a wall up.
A big, beautiful wall.
Well, the blooming people that should have been outside clearly didn't do anything to stop them. Normally, we have 2 guards outside and they tell us if anything comes, but how they managed to not get through... Sorry?
So have you checked on the guards?
I've been sat here on my arse for the last few minutes. I don't know where they are.
That's right, just pop my head out the back door and check the guards.
Okay, so you look outside, and you do see there is sort of like a little wall around the back of this establishment. They're not daft. They're a coach house along the Orem coast. There's sort of like a small wall. There's the stables just to one side, but what you do notice, like instantly, from the door out to the back, is that the stables are empty. There is not a single horse to be seen.
Okay, a bit suspect.
So I'm
going to nip back into the bar and debrief the team on what I've found. To say all the horses are gone. The coast looks clear, but yeah, there was someone broke in from the back and ransacked the pantry, and injured one of the head of the tavern.
Tink kind of looks around. I'm guessing Livy's still in the bar with us, or has she gone into the kitchen?
Yeah, she's still in the bar at the moment. Sort of like Galen's just there, like with her, and she's like panicking, looking around. She does sort of try and sort of like tug away from you when she hears her mother's voice.
At this point, Tink will say, "Where is your brother? I counted 4 members of this family. However, I'm only seeing 3."
He was probably outside tending to the stables or doing some chores out the back. He sort of works with Dad in the kitchen and outside.
Right. Mac very concerned. Mac very concerned is going to check that Jeremy is okay and hasn't been stolen.
As you look around the room, Jeremy is nowhere to be seen.
Oh, Jeremy!
Now it's personal.
No, I pat Mac on the back and say, Mac, I think I can find Jeremy. So I'm going to use my blood mark tracking.
Oh, the GPS sheep, yeah.
GPS. Yes, global position sheep. So that's called Bloodhound. It has a target number of 11. You divine the presence of an object you've previously put a blood mark on, or on a living creature whose blood you have sample of. Same but different. You can get sample of blood from any weapon that has been damaged or has damaged a target in combat. When you first cast a spell, you will know the target is within a mile of you and in what direction, and lasts for 10 minutes. For every 2 magic points are put into it, it will last for longer. I'm of the mindset that whoever's got Jeremy are the raiders. Do you guys want me to try and find them? I do apologise, Mac. I did put a blood marker on your sheep just in case, because I thought it'd be a good way of finding you if I was ever in trouble. Okay, so let's hit this target number of 11. I'm going to put 2 extra magic points into it to make it last for 20 minutes.
Cool.
Get the roller.
I think with that as well, for the Bloodhound, the way I'm reading it is that
11.
It lasts, what I'm also reading it, is it lasts for 10 minutes, and when that 10 minutes is up, you can maintain it. So if you want to maintain it, you then keep paying the 2 MP.
So yeah, I'll put the 4 on now. Mm-hmm. That takes me down to 6 magic points remaining. Okay. So I can only maintain it for about an hour. Okay. So it's worked. I got the target number required. Mm-hmm. In which direction is Jeremy? Is he within a mile?
So with the time that's passed, he's still within a mile. and the direction is northwest, towards the village of Tosca.
We're taking Jeremy to Tosca.
Thank you. I'm going to grab him in a big bear hug and hug him, and then I'm going to run out the thing in the direction of wherever Tosca is. With Gillis still in my arms.
So what I would say is that when you sort of like you pick him up and you start to run in that direction, you get outside, roll an intelligence check.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
I'd say intelligence navigation.
Ooh. 6. I'm running in the wrong direction. Yeah, that's 6.
So you like run outside and you go northwest, and you like look up at the sky because you're a traveller. You've used the stars to travel before, and the moon. There aren't any stars. It's raining. You don't know what direction northwest is.
Can Gillis course correct?
Luckily, he's brought his elf compass with him. So I can't point because you've got both my arms pinned. I'm just nodding with my beaky helmet.
What are you talking about, Gillis?
It's that way, Mac.
Alright. Yeah, so I'm running
Put
off
me down
in
and I'll go with you.
Alright, I drop him and...
And Mac's just going. He's just running.
Yeah, they're taking his sheep. He doesn't care. He's getting
Cool.
it back. Getting him
What's
back.
what's everybody else
dear
doing?
God.
I'm
we
trying
can't
to keep
leave
up with
him.
Mac.
As I say, surely
Tink,
Gillis
we better
needs to calm Mac down and bring it
So
back. on
at this point, Mac
Well, no,
is just
technically I'm his compass. He's
Mac-
going to get lost without me.
Mac is just running off, and Gillis is like, trying to keep up after him. For you two, you were still in the bar as this was going on. So Livy sort of ran into the back of the kitchen. What are you going to do, Galen and Tink?
So Tink at this point is like he's basically sewing up. He evidently his fingers have morphed into some weird little mini sewing machine. And he's like sewing up, stitching up the slice from the axe wound on his clothes. Anyway, he's obviously there's still metal damage. At this point, he kind of looks around at Livy and just kind of cocks his head, like waiting for her to say something. And
she sort of like as she's sort of there running towards the kitchen, she sort of like looks at you and just nods towards Galen's direction and sort of says thanks and just runs into the kitchen.
So Tink's going to turn back to Galen. It might be sensible to pursue Mac and Gillis.
Do you think they're going to get very far in this weather?
He's he walks over to where his cane scabbard is, and he's like resheathing his rapier and such.
Let us check on the family first. I'm going to go into the kitchen and check on what was the lady's name again?
Natalia.
Natalia. I'm going to look at her and ask her, "Where's your son?"
And she sort of looks up and goes, "He's probably outside. That's where he'll be. I'm sure of it. Uruk, Uruk!" And she sort of starts shouting out, and you sort of hear this from out the back of the door, and this sort of the boy walks in, wet, sodden hair, and he sort of just looks round a little bit dazed, and goes, I thought you told me that they killed people, Mummy. I thought that's what you said. Why am I still here? Why am I still alive? They hit me. But, and the horses. They've got the horses.
Do any of us have any prior knowledge of the Iceborne and what their kind of modus operandi is?
So, what you all know about the Iceborne Raiders from your time in the Auran Coast is that they originate from the Iceborne Isles, which are sort of far to the east of the Aurum coast. They often come across to raid and pillage and steal wealth. Like it's believed that as part of their culture, they basically get kudos for the amount of wealth that they bring home. Often, sort of the leaders and chieftains and chiefesses want to show off like how much havoc they've caused. They have a very militaristic culture. They sort of operate off duels. The strongest will lead. There's also rumours that they are, some of them are sort of descendants of giants. And often there's the odd Iceborne that is massive, like bigger than any human. They're generally seemed as they come and they go. They don't tend to stick around. They'll sort of shore up somewhere, they'll hit somewhere, and then they'll flee. But usually taking wealth, riches, and people.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, I guess Tink will say, Galen, we should probably pursue.
I agree. Let us go find Mac and Gillis before we lose them for good.
I agree.
Okay, so sort of as you make your way outside, so Mac's been running at full pelt. Mac and Gallus, are you doing anything at all outside apart from running?
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow Mac's footsteps, really.
I guess I'm looking out in case I can spot Jeremy anywhere, so I would be taking in the surroundings a bit.
So, being an orc, you do have sort of dark vision, so you can sort of see your surrounding area in monochrome. Whilst you don't know sort of what direction northwest is, you sort of look down at your feet and you do see a lot of hoof prints all over the road, just heading towards Tosca, and you could sort of assume that the direction you're running is the direction that they've gone.
Ah, they have horses. I don't think I can run as fast as horses.
Can we do a bit more of a in-depth look, see if how deep the horse tracks are? Are they leading the horses or riding them?
So roll a perception tracking check.
I don't have tracking. Have natural law?
No. This will be tracking.
What stat do you add to it? Because currently I've got 3.
So perception. You look at them all. You sort of drop down. Sort of
rub all the tracks out. I don't like this. Make my own.
Toto listening for the buffalo, and you put your ear down.
Tonto, not Toto.
Tonto, that's one. Yeah.
Toto's from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's the dog, isn't it? Anyway, so so you drop your ear down to the ground rather than your eyes, and you sort of come back up with a muddy ear, going, I don't know if they're riding the horses or not.
Horses.
Okay.
They've got horses. That's about it.
Okay. What do you want to do, Mac? Is this sheep really that important to you?
Yes, run. And we're just going to run.
Okay.
And just see if we catch them or not.
So with this momentary pause, I would say that Galen and Tink, as you sort of went outside, you do see lots of tracks on the ground, sort of heading in a rough direction of to the northwest.
It appears they're heading for the town of Tosca.
Do you know how far Tosca is?
And Tink kind of he cocks his head as he's accessing the knowledge. He's obviously got a bit of a map, and he's travelled around a fair bit, so he probably knows.
Well, if you left now, you'd probably get there by morning.
What time is it at the moment?
It's sort of evening time, so it's night time. So it's probably about sort of anywhere between sort of 4 to 6 hours or so.
If we leave now, we could possibly make it there by morning.
Okay. Tink, do you want to go get your money back for the room?
You aren't there. You're running.
You're
off
not
the map.
there. Okay, you're.
We can.
I thought you said they caught up now. All right.
No, we're still outside the pub. We barely moved.
Oh, outside. Sorry, yeah.
We're just looking at the rain. I mean,
well, this is going to be some downtrodden evening if we're going to get there by morning. But I suppose if we leave it, we're not going to catch up with Gillis and Mac. He really does want to get Jeremy back, so I think we're going to have to go.
Indeed,
I think we're going to have to go, Tink.
And I am suspicious that they may have this shipment of coats that I've lost.
Can you turn yourself into some sort of carriage?
It's not a transformer.
You got some like wheels
I
hidden
bloody
away.
wish it was.
All right, you're not going to go rusty by the time he gets here.
No, he's immune to rusts. They are.
Yeah.
So at this point, he's going to reach back in the door
up
and grab his poncho that he hung up when he arrived. And he's just
What do you have a poncho for if you're immune to rust?
Oh, because he didn't want to get his clothes wet.
All right, let you
He's a
off.
tailor.
he's
Okay.
He's like dressed in the best
just a dapper
finery. That's now
poncho.
got a big axe wound in it. He's just stitched it back
Gutted.
up with his own like sewing kit.
So
Sewing machine hands.
it's roughly around this time that a few of you are starting to feel like, whilst the rain is cold, it's not as cold as it should be, and a few of you are sort of starting to feel the effects of the alcohol that you drunk. Not more than sort of an hour, sort of half an hour ago, as you were rudely interrupted. And sort of, it's quite nice in this because, it's just tipsy. You hadn't got that far down those drinks, but, it's nice that it's giving you a little bit of warmth as you're trudging through. As you're making your way towards Tosca, Mac and Gallus, you're like running as fast as you can. Eventually, you start to feel tired. Do you want to keep sprinting or do you want to slow down?
Are we
Good to
catching
keep
them?
going.
Do you know? Gallus?
I don't know how. Oh, sorry.
So, I would say you keep running at this
I've
point,
no idea if we're catching them.
and you now no longer have Jeremy on your GPS radar.
So, can I spend the extra 2 to maintain,
You can indeed.
or is it? All right, so I'll spend the 2 magic points to maintain the track.
Okay.
Is he back?
So, he is not back.
Just imagine Mac like falling to his knees, staring up at the sky, going, "Jeremy!"
It means that he is
I'll tell you
more
what,
than
if
a mile away
Jeremy
from
turns out to be a magic fucking sheep, he's like transformed back into like some sort of human.
Well, one of those sheep from the new High Elf range. Yeah, just to be clear on the blood mark, I put it on Jeremy as an object, not as a living being.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I put my blood on him. I'm tracking my blood.
Yep.
So I can't find it anymore. So that would mean he's outside of a mile away, which means either they've managed to break the magic, or they're further than a mile away, which means we are not gaining on them. We are actually far
Or
behind them.
it's pretty wet out. Like it stands
it
to
could've washed
reason that it could have washed off the sheep.
It's
He's
not
exactly
specifically
wearing a
about the
poncho,
blood.
is he?
It's the ritual itself that you track. The blood is imperceptible. It's a tiny prick of blood that completes the ritual, and then after that, I have to choose whether to let the blood mark go. I can maintain as many blood marks as I have willpower, which is 3. It doesn't say anything in the spell about the blood getting washed off or anything. I mean, but that's if it does, it does. I don't really know. But yeah,
Is Matt
it's
slowing down, or is he still sprinting?
Have I been
Yeah, I was gonna
told
say to
this,
Mac, I
that you've
can't.
lost?
No, I'm going to say at Maka, it's like that I've lost track of him, which means he's probably more than a mile away. Which means they are faster than us. We've been going full pelt and we've gained nothing. We've actually lost ground, and they could be anywhere now. I think we just have to make it to Tosca at our own pace and try and track him down then.
Jeremy.
I'll give
Just gonna
a pat on the shoulder.
slow to a slow walk. And just shake my head. Jeremy.
I guess this would allow us to catch up. And
It
regroup.
would indeed. So about this sort of time, you sort of like hear the plop plop of footfall into the mud behind you, and sort of like Mac, as you like look round, you see sort of the grayscale images of Tink and Galen like running towards you.
I've got dark vision as well.
Cool. So you see that as well.
I do not. However, I would assume that Galen is casting some sort of flame spell to make a makeshift lantern.
You're just running into tree after tree.
Yeah.
You're basically like following this road, and just like, but it's quite a hard standing
the God
road.
will guide me, bonk.
So it's sort of like, whilst it's muddy and hard standing, it's the kind of road that if you veered off onto the grass, you'd know you veered off onto the grass. Like, it's quite a well-travelled road. And sort of certainly at this point away from the coach house, it's more like a road. You can see the bits of puddles where the hoof prints are in, but actually the standing of the road has kept it, so you can sort of just about follow that road. And you sort of reconvene on this road and sort of all look at each other and, well, what are you going to do?
We've lost Jeremy.
Yeah, I can't travel.
Oh, Mac, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We'll find you another Jeremy.
No, he trusted me. I needed to keep him safe. I will find him.
By feeding him his own kind. Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll get Jeremy back. We will find Jeremy.
Thank you, friend.
I'm sure he is in Tosca.
Do I know anything about Tosca? Have I been?
So Tosca, you've sort of you've heard of it. You know it's sort of a farming town. Has a lot of flocks and cattle and grain. It's sort of one of the larger areas overseen by the Oravali family, who sort of are like the main landowners in this area. But it's sort of like more like a small hamlet. What you do know about it is you know that the area is protected by a militia, and you know that there's sort of the individuals who would have been outside the Dandy Owl coach house that you sort of missed, slumped against the walls as you were busy looking for things. They sort of have sashes of different colours, and sort of is made up of the local population. So you sort of know that's in the area as well. And you know the Toscan ones are, from your dealings with them, they just don't really care very much. They're sort of like, they just want to get on with their lives and, you know, keep things at bay. Militias, depending on where they are, depending on who they're paid by, take things a little bit differently. But that's your only real knowledge of Tosca. You know a little bit about, you've bumped into their militia before, they haven't really impressed you. You know, they're not going to find Jeremy for you.
So those people that attacked us, they definitely didn't look like Toscan military
No, they
people.
didn't. They didn't look like
Toscan
Toscan
Raiders.
Yeah.
But in looking at it though, they did run pretty quickly. Like, do you think the Iceborne would have been up for a fight as opposed to being very quick to get out of
They're
there?
just
Do we
in and
think
out, isn't it?
that-
That's
Yeah, they want wealth.
Yeah, but do we think that the Iceborne are being used as a scapegoat for maybe the militia masquerading as the Iceborne in this region? It would certainly be an easy way for people to get away with raiding and stealing from local inns and towns.
Is
Potentially.
Tosca on
I
the
don't
way
know.
back to the coast?
No, it's further away from the coast.
So heading inland. By the way, we're getting soaked here, so we just pick a direction. We're going to Tosca, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to
walk and
head
talk
to
then.
Tosca. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would assume Tink could just go without rest. Like, he's not
Yeah.
like...
You're all going to feel a bit tired in the morning, but yes, you can easily make your way sort of towards Tosca. The rain is horrendous. I mean, in all fairness, the rain covers your movements as well as anything else does. This is not the kind of night that creatures come out and people normally steal things. Like, this is, you know, you can't see who you're trying to take stuff off. You know, you're walking under the guidance of the dark vision of your elf and orc friend. And you make your way along the road. It's wet for most of it, but it starts to subside as the sun comes up. And as the sun comes up, you see the rolling hills in front of you. You see, in the distance, fields of grain that's been harvested, short little stumps. You see white small clouds dotted across pastures. You see from this distance small groups of buildings, and sort of out towards you in the centre you see a larger group of buildings, sort of like a communal gathering of buildings rather than just individual farms. And you sort of make your way along the meandering road towards the farms and the group of buildings, and as you get closer you see there's a little bit of noise and commotion coming from the group of the buildings. Even from this distance you just sort of hear distant shouts and sort of angry voices. What would you like to do?
Does it sound like a fight, or does it just sound like...
Sounds like people complaining.
Alright. I'm just going to keep going unless anyone stops me.
Yeah, I think just carry on in.
No.
It sounds like a town meeting or something.
Yes,
Okay.
we need to get any. If anyone's had any eyes on these raiders, we need to get an idea of where they went.
As you make your way towards the village, the noise gets louder, and as you get closer you see the small gathering. There may be 10 or so individuals gathered around this man stood on a box, just a small crate. The man that stood on the box is quite a tall man. He's got dark, well-kept hair, and when you come up to the crowd you see the few scars on his cheek. He sort of looks like he's lived a bit of a tough life, but his armour is pristine. His leather is clean, and despite the weather, his boots, apart from the bottom, are spotless. And he has a shoulder pad that's shiny and reflective. And he's sort of looking down at this group going, calm down, calm down. Look, we'll sort this out, we promise. And this sort of man at the front goes, yeah, but they stole my sheep. And at that moment, we will end
hearing that,
the episode.
Mac is going to run over.
and
my
Swinging
sheep
for the fences.
too.
and as the episode's sort of ending, Mac is just running slow motion towards this group of people about their sheep.
We're all hanging off his coattails.
we will continue the search for Jeremy in our next episode. But there we go. There is the first episode of...
I'm getting an inkling that Jeremy has
wreckage.
nothing to do with what you've written.
Well, who knows if Jeremy is anything to do with what I've written. But there we go. There is the first episode of Meeting in the Pub classic start. Finding Jeremy.
All praise the mutton lord, Jeremy.
Oh dear.
His greatest
The
disciple,
quest
the
for
man.
sheep.
Yes, there's this grand campaign of swords and magic, and we're going to go look for a sheep.
And a coat.
Yeah,
And some coats.
and a shipment of coats.
I mean, look, we should refer
Yeah.
to him as Jeremy. He's not just any sheep.
No, he is Jeremy.
This is Jeremy.
I thought he said shipment of coke then, Lee. I was like, what game is this?
But no,
No, he's a
awesome
coat
stuff.
dealer.
Narcos, Age
Coat
Edition.
dealer.
So awesome stuff. We'll wrap things up there. But
Okay.
I had good fun, and I
Indeed.
hope you guys did too. And I hope you folks listening at home enjoyed our wonderful adventure in search of the sheep. And if you want to find out what is the fate of Jeremy the sheep is, then you'll have to tune in next time round. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a pleasant journey wherever you're going or whatever you're doing, potentially sat in rooms for goodness knows how many days at the current time that we're filming this. But I enjoyed that, folks, and yeah, we will catch you in
Yeah, me too.
the next episode. So thank you very much, folks.
Can't wait.
And as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Wait, no, that's my YouTube chat. There we go. Moving onwards. But yes, we'll catch you in the next episode.
Another plug.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers, job.
Thanks,
Appreciate
John.
that, guys.
See you next
Right.
time.
Enjoy, fellas.